Hello dear students, today we are going to discuss about the third lesson of SSLC class, Gentleman of Rio in Medio, written by John A. Sedillo. Gentleman of Rio in Medio, written by John A. Sedillo. Author is John A. Sedillo. Gentleman, gentle means good or honest. Gentleman, honest person, good person, innocent person, loyal person. So, gentleman is honest person. The Gentleman of Rio in Medio. Rio in Medio. This is the name of place. The Rio in Medio is in New Mexico of America. Rio in Medio. This is the place is in New Mexico of America. This gentleman was lived in Rio in Medio. This is story about the old man. He is the gentleman. He is the good person. He is a great person. He is a loyal person, honest person. He who is lived in the Mexico, Rio and Medio. This is lesson about him. In this story, four members are there. Conversation between four members. One is author John Sedillo, author. Second one is old man. Who is old man? This gentleman. Third one is American people. Fourth one is a dark boy. A dark young boy is one of the boys in this lesson. So totally four members are there in this lesson. So let me explain about it. It took months of negotiation to come to an understanding with the old man. He was in no hurry. What he had most of was time. He lived up in Rio in Medio, where his place had been for hundreds of years. He tilled the same land they had tilled. His house was small and wretched but quaint. The little creek ran through his land. His orchard was kind and beautiful. Yes, the old man, he has some land and a house and orchard in his land. There, orchard means the trees group of the trees which trees are giving fruits. So this man, who the gentleman of Rio and Meadow, he wanted to sell his house and his land. He wanted to sell his house and his land. He is going to sell his land, his house to the American people. So they wanted to come to discussion with him. They wanted to talk about the deed. This is going on. It took months of negotiation to come to understanding with the old man. The old man come to talk with him about the land, about the deed, about the selling. They wanted to talk about that. It took about months of time to talk about the deed, the talk about to selling the land and his house. He was in no hurry. What he had the most of was time. He has no hurry. Who has no hurry? The gentleman, Raven Meadow. The gentleman was no hurry. He has lot of time. He wanted to sell his land slowly. He lived in Rio and Medio, where his people had been for hundreds of years. He lived in Rio and Medio. Who lived in Rio and Medio? The old man. Gentleman lived in Rio and Medio. Rio and Medio, where is Rio and Medio? Rio and Medio is in New Mexico of America. He lived there, and his people, whose people? The gentleman ancestors, gentleman people were lived in that same place hundreds of years. His ancestors, whose ancestors? Gentlemen, old man's ancestors lived in that place hundreds of years. Where his people had been for hundreds of years. He tilled the same land they tilled. He tilled. Means pluck. Till means pluck, seeding and growing crops, taking, plucking. Till means plucking. He was plucking the land which his ancestors also plucked the same land. There is no difference. They are also plucking the same land. He is also today plucking the same land. His house was small and wretched but quaint. His house was small and wretched. Wretched means it was not that much beautiful. His house was small, not that much good. It was become shelter and kelter and unpleasant. It was unpleasant, uh, but quaint. But it was looking a little bit well, quite well and good. The little creek ran through his land. Little creek. Creek means water, water growing, water plowing. We call a small river, uh, stream. We say another name is stream. Creek means stream, small river. Small kind of water is flowing in his land. So that's why his orchard was canaled and beautifully. So orchard, the group of trees which are giving very beautiful ripe and sweet fruits. That's the trees are grown is in his land very beautiful. Orchard is group of trees which are giving fruits. They are grown in his land very well because the little creek ran through his land. The little stream was flowing in his land, so that water is used to grow the trees. The day of sale, he came to the office. Finally, the day of the sale. What sale? Uh, Don Anselmo, gentleman, Rio and Medio. The old man wanted to sell his land. So the talking about selling about his land, the time is come. Day is came. His coat was old. He came to office that day. Who came to office? The old man came to office to talk about the selling, talk about the deed. How he came to office? His coat was old. He wore a coat. Who wore the coat? Gentleman, Rio and Medio of the gentleman wore the coat. It was old, green and faded. Green and faded. It was green color but faded. Faded means the color was dim. The brightness, it loses its brightness. The bright color was loose, faded. I thought of a Senator Cartoon who has been such a power with these people up in the mountain. That time, the author he thought himself when he saw the Gentleman of Rio and Meadow. The author, when he saw the Gentleman of Rio and Meadow, he thought and he compared the person who is Senator Cotton. Senator Cotton. Senator means he is the author. He is the authority. He is the member of senator. How is in our country we call member of cabinet, member of parliament. Like this is the he is the member of senator in the America, and he also looking like him. Who looking like him? The gentleman looking like the senator. He has been such a power with people in the mountain places. There was the Senator Cotton was lived for many days, and he has the power on the people over the people. So the gentleman of Rio and Meadow looking like the senator. Perhaps it was one of his Princess Albert. Prince Albert's. Prince Albert's means the name of a court here. The name of the court. Perhaps, maybe it was one of his old court. Perhaps it was one of his old court. Whose old court? Senator's old court. Who was wearing the coat? Senator was wearing the coat. The same coat looking like the gentleman also wear today. Maybe the coat which the gentleman wore today, that is maybe the coat of Senator Cartoon coat. Author thought himself. He wore gloves, they were old and torn, and his fingertips showed through them. He wore old, he wore gloves. Who wore gloves? The old man wore gloves, but the gloves were torn. Torn means they are ripped apart. His fingertips, edge of the fingers, his fingertips were showing in that holes. Which holes? The holes of the gloves. The gloves was torn. The holes of the gloves, his finger was showing in that part. They were old and torn, his fingertips were showed in them. He carried a cane. He carried a cane. Cane means a stick. He carried a cane, but it was only skeleton of worn out umbrella. A skeleton of worn out umbrella. He hold the cane. The cane was the worn out umbrella. Umbrella's skeleton that was. That cane was umbrella's skeleton because umbrella was umbrella was collapsed. Umbrella was wasted. So when umbrella's cover was removed, when the only cane was remain, that cane was he used to take on that. He used to use that to take. He used that to take anywhere he go. Behind him walked one of his innumerable kin, a dark young man who has eyes like a gazelle. Behind him, who's behind? Don Anselmo's behind, innumerable kin. He is one of the relative. Kin means relative. Who is behind him? He always stand behind him. Wherever he go, he was going with him. He was accompanies with him. Dark young man. He was looking dark and young man. His eyes was like gazelle. Gazelle means deer. His eyes was like deer's eyes. So in this paragraph describe about the old man, his performance, what he wear, and how he is come to office. The old man bowed to all of us in the room. The old man came to office and he bowed. Bowed means he bowed the head and make namaskar to all of us. Then he removed his hat and gloves. Then he removed his hat, then gloves. Slowly and carefully, he removed all these things slowly and carefully. Chaplin once did in the picture. In a bank, he was the janitor. Chaplin, the author remind that Chaplin performance. He was also make same performance like Don Anselmo when he was guarding the building. Then he handed his things to the boy who was stood obediently behind the old man's chair, and he removes his hat and gloves and he removed everything and he handed over his things. The man who is standing behind him very obediently, he gave him his things to the boy who was standing behind him. There was a great conversation about the rain and his family. Then the talking started about the deal, and they discussed about his family. Whose family? Don Anselmo's family, and about the rain. How is the rain happened in that place? They all discuss about that. American and Don Anselmo and the author discuss about all these things. What happened next? He was very proud of his large family. Don Anselmo was very proud of his large family. He has a good and large family. And in Rio and Medio, every one of his relatives. Finally, we get down to business. Means finally they went to business. They went to American wanted to buy the land. He wanted to sell the land. Yes, he would sell as he had agreed for $1,200 in cash. Don Anselmo agreed to sell his land for 1,200 rupees cash. For $1,200 we would buy, and the money was ready. American people was bought the land, money also ready for giving Don Anselmo. Don Anselmo, I said to him in Spanish, we have made discovery. You remember that we sent a surveyor, that engineer, up there to survey our land so as to make deed. Well, he finds that you own more than 8 acres. So Don Anselmo sold his land $1,200. His land was 8 acres. He sold already. But after some time, they sent a surveyor to survey the land of Don Anselmo. They wanted to confirm it's 8 acre or more than that. Surveyor came and he surveyed the land. That land was not only 8 acres but more than that. The land was almost twice, means 16 acre that land was. The author is talking to Don Anselmo here. He told Don Anselmo, we sent a surveyor to your land to survey the land. He surveyed, and it is not 8 acre. You don't know about this. This is 16 acre. This is twice up. You told. So this is 16 acre land is the surveyor told us. Well, he finds that you own more than 8 acres. It tells us that your land extends across the river and that you own almost twice as much as you thought. Don Anselmo, you thought your land is only 8 acres, but it was not. It is 16 acres. Surveyor told it's extend to the river, across the river, so land is more than your thought, mostly twice than your thought. So surveyor told us. He didn't know that, and now Don Anselmo I added. He didn't know that. Who don't know? Don Anselmo don't know how much he has land. He told that he thought that he has only 8 acres land, but the land was twice as much as he told before. He don't know about that. Mr. Author told here. He didn't know that, and now Dan Anselmo I added. Now Dan Anselmo I added means who added here? Who told here? Author. He added, these American are benchant. They are good people. These American beyond gentlemen. It's a Spanish language means good people. These American are good people, and they are willing to pay you for the additional land as well at the same rate per acre. Don Anselmo, listen to me. You thought that your land is only 8 acre, but it is 16 acre. These people are whose people? American people are very good people, and they are willing to pay you. They willing to pay you more. They are willing to pay you extra acre of land. You told that you have only 8 acre land, and you sold your land for $1,200, but today it's twice as much as you told, and they are willing to pay you twice money also, means $2,400 they are willing to pay you. They are willing to pay you additional amount for the additional land because they are good people. They are very good people. That's why they are willing to pay you. Author told to Don Anselmo at the same per acre, so that instead of $1,200 you will get almost twice as much, and money is here for you. So instead of $1,200 you can get twice as much you told before. So money is also here for you. Money also they brought. Money also there. He wanted to give the money to the Don Anselmo, and he told about that what happened. What Don Anselmo replied. The old man hung his head for a moment in thought. The old man, the gentleman, hung his head means he bowed his head for some time, and he thought some while. He thought himself some while. Then he stood up and stared at me. Stood up and stared at me. Who stood up? Don Anselmo stood up and stared at the author. Stared means look fixedly for some time. Stared means look fixedly some time. He looked fixedly some time at the author and told, friend, he said. He started from friend. Friend, he said, I don't like to have to speak you to me in that matter. He told, friend, I don't like to have to speak to me in that matter. I kept still and let me have his say. I kept still and let him have his say. His say. He told, my dear friend, I didn't think about you are talking like this. You are talking like this. He kept quiet for some time. We kept quiet. Author kept quiet to let him speak. I know these Americans are good people, and that is why I agreed to sell to them. I know these Americans are good people. Uh, Don Anselmo, the gentleman of Rio and Medio, telling to the author, I know these Americans are good people. That's why I sold them. I sold my land to them. They are good people. I know very well. That's why I sold my land to them. If they are not good, how can I sell? So they are good. I am agreed to sell them. But I do not care to be insulted. But I do not care to be insulted. Don Anselmo said, I do not care to be insulted. Why it is insulted? He agreed to give $1,200 before. That's the fixed rate. If you are coming to give additional amount, that is insult for the Don Anselmo. I have agreed to sell my house and land for $1,200 and that is the price. Don Anselmo replied, I have agreed to sell my land and my house for $1,200. That is the fixed price. There is no change. I do not change that things. So this shows how much honest man is Don Anselmo. The gentleman is very honest man. He is very good man. He told that before $1,200 he agreed to sell his land $1,200. Now they are coming to give more money, additional money for additional land. But Don Anselmo not willing to take the money because he agreed to take only $1,200. That's the fixed rate. So this shows how much honest man the gentleman Rio and Medio. I argued with him, but it was useless. Who argued? The author argued with him. Author tried to convince him. Author tried to convince him and give him additional money of the additional land. But the Don Anselmo didn't agree because it is useless. It is useless means Don Anselmo didn't agree with the author. Finally, he signed the deed and took the money but refused to take more than the amount agreed upon. Finally, Don Anselmo signed the deed. Deed means document. He signed the documents and took the money, 1200s, but he refused to take additional money. He took only $1,200 and went. Then he shook his hands all around. Then he shook his hands all around, greeted everyone. He thanks to everyone. He shook his hands to everyone. Put on his ragged clothes. Again his same performance. He put on his ragged clothes, torn away clothes, took his stick, which was torn away by the umbrella, and walked with the boy behind him. And he walked with the boy behind him. The boy who is dark, young boy who has the eyes like a kajal, he was always behind him. The Don Anselmo went accompanies with the boy. So Don Anselmo refused to take additional money from the American people. He sold his land for $1,200. He thought his land is only 8 acres, but when they came to survey the land, it was twice of the land which they told. Means that was 16 acre land is, and they willing to pay additional money for additional land to the Don Anselmo. But Don Anselmo didn't accept them. He refused to take additional money and he told, I agreed to receive $1,200 for my land. That's a fixed price. So this shows how much he is honest man. Who is honest man? Don Anselmo. So from first paragraph to sixth paragraph.